So a bit of things here before we start the I'm gonna react to this video by Jack Septiceye, and it's a very personal topic from him, and also like currently it's not just affecting him, it's affecting many people around the world. It's affecting uh I mean the people that went through COVID, the people that deal with ADHD or like autism, things like this. I wanted to do a little react video while I'm waiting to finish off the editing on a bunch of stuff. So here it is. I'm just gonna like let it like kind of like put everything on the table and like kind of talk about some of these topics that he brings up here in this video, which is I think for him is like one of the uh, it's a personal video that he personally feels very affected by these subjects he's going to be talking about. And it's like to me too, it's like it's one of those things where I deal with these things like daily basically. And it's like if you've ever felt these things, if you struggle with ADHD, you struggle with autism, you struggle with like depression, suicidal thoughts, and all these kinds of things. It's one of those things where like uh, you know it's very important to talk about these subjects, and it's very important to be open about these to the people around you, because it's it's it just is a difficult topic to deal with on your own, and like most people do. And that's the terrible, like the terrible part about this is that a lot of people deal with these topics, and they deal with them on their own because they can't either be open about it, or they can't actually seek help because they're financially not available, like to they do not have the finances available to actually go in and look at these topics and deal with them on like a medical or on like a psychological approach. So let's see what he has to say here for a little bit.
I wanted to come on here and talk a bit more about mental health and
I'll turn it
specifically
down a
some
little
of the
bit.
struggles that I've gone through in my life as a person, because we have Thankmas coming up on December 6th. Tickets are on sale. You can go get them. And that's
I think
partly why I'm here, is to try and promote that and
yeah, it's like it's a yearly event where they try to do I think charity for other things, for other causes.
sell more tickets and get more people in and raise more awareness for it so we can raise more money for charity. But also, I wanted to open up the conversation about mental health a bit more and share some of the stuff that I've been through. A lot of times people see other people in positions of success and they think that, oh, they must have it all, or they've achieved success and I'm
Yeah, very short-sighted view from most people when they look at someone like Jack and say like, oh yeah, I mean he's doing well for himself on YouTube. He must have a well balanced inner life. He must be super happy and must be really he must have it all like squared away, and is like perfectly mentally stable, and like is his happiness must be through the roof, while in most cases that is not the case. In my cases that was never the case. And for Jack, I know he's dealing with some issues as well. I don't know the extent of them, but he's going to talk about them.
struggling quite a bit. But I think a lot of people come to me with their stories about their lives because I've talked about the struggles that I've been through in my life. I don't know, maybe encourage other people to kind of talk about their own struggles, not only in the comments of this video, feel free to vent all you want, like other YouTubers and other people of influence and other people who are in these positions where I think talking about mental health can have huge knock-on effects positively for people. I personally gravitate towards people who are able to be vulnerable, who are able to be open and transparent and honest and talk about the stuff they've been through, but not really let it define who they are as people. And I
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Most commonly, a lot of people try to kind of devolve a person into their problems, or like make them into now this is who they are, this is what defines them. And so also that's why a lot of people are afraid of saying like what the problems that they have are, because they can't really be open about them without like going like, well, now I am the ADHD man, or I am labeled as the person that has a broken family, or different types of abuse and things like that. Like they feel like it labels them as a person. They become that thing. It's like now that's all you are to them, and you're no longer like an individual. You're no longer like a human being. Well, it could be further from the truth.
I try and live my life that way as well. I've been going to therapy now for the last 2 years very frequently, like at least once a week. And I think it's had a huge influence on me as a person, and trying to view myself differently and trying to go easier on myself. And a lot of the struggles.
This is one of the problems I have, is like I am so insanely critical about myself and what I do. It's like it like nobody in the world could actually walk up and hit my feelings as hard as me myself could do that. Like I'm the only one that can actually tear myself a living like chasm of just pain, because I'm just like, my brain just works that way. It's just critical.
That I've been through as a kid and things like that I didn't realize I had gone through. In 2017, I talked about having the worst year of my life and having some of the biggest mental health struggles that I've ever had. And I think mainly I started getting my confidence sort of shook because of different things that had happened that year publicly. In like 2014 to 2016, I think that was probably the biggest years of my career in terms of like growth, relevance, people tuning in, the amount of people who were just so enamored with the Jacksepticeye channel and would just do anything to watch it. And
Right, he had like a massive resurgence, or like a massive success with his videos. Remember, like being younger, I feel like most people have this, like being younger, unless they were really unlucky, is like you had this feeling of just, uh, well, it depends on your age, but like I had this feeling of just like pure happiness when I was younger, and it just kind of gradually went away as you got older, and you become more like anchored in the now, and like in the more real space, like responsibilities and bills and things like that.
come home every day from school and watch it so much, or college or work. I feel like those are probably the golden years of probably just gaming on YouTube in general. 2017, I felt like a lot of stuff was starting to shift, and I personally didn't.
Definitely there was a big shift throughout the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I don't know, like definitely something like that.
Really know what I was doing and where I was going, and I struggled a lot with my identity. I realized that I was doing YouTube so vigorously for so long that I was starting to get a bit burnt out in it, and I needed to take some more breaks for myself. But in taking breaks, you stop the treadmill that you've been on. A lot of people were watching me because they've just
Very real. Like what he's saying is he's too busy to notice his own like emotions and behavior, and like to analyze it. Like, so he was so busy that he kind of put a stop to it. Like he's just doing the things, he's doing the motions. He's not really seeking that inner life kind of understanding, and like also feeling that like what is hurting, right? Those emotions that really are difficult to deal with.
done it all the time, and when you kind of put a stop on that, they realize, oh man, I realized that I don't even want to watch this anymore, and they don't really come back after that. Totally fine, that's how humans work. But for me as a person, I didn't really know how to deal with any of that. I didn't know how to take breaks. I didn't know where I fit in the YouTube landscape anymore.
Very dangerous when you become your work. It has like this way of swallowing you up, and you become like, you become your job, and you just do everything to be the job. You need to seek that, like an external thing from your job that makes you you, and like, friends, family, uh, the balance between the things, basically. Like you have to seek that out. Like you can't just like basically shrink yourself into this minor existence where it's just you are only your job, and that's it.
And I was pushing myself through a lot of stuff to to just do. I was just doing, and I
Never, like, as much as you can, never try to push yourself. Like, like if you're pushing yourself, but like the whole idea is that like that is a miserable existence. You should never push yourself. Like, unless you're pushing yourself for a positive thing, this is not a positive thing. It's like there is there's like the positive amount of stress or pressure that you can apply to yourself to reach a better goal, reach like a better life. But there's also the really negative one where you're just crunching. You're just kind of crunching to get like you're struggling to exist.
wasn't happy with my life. I was in a relationship that I wasn't happy with. That was very bad for my mental health. It's done. That relationship's over. We can move on. I want to be
I'm glad to hear that, Jack. Like these toxic, again, toxic people, toxic relationships. You need to get them away from you as far as possible. They will cause you nothing but misery, and they will always be in your head, and like you're always gonna suffer from them because they are a part of you now. Like, they are part of your mentality or your thoughts, and you're gonna think back. Sometimes you're even gonna think back to like a negative thing, and even perceive it as like, oh, but I had this beautiful relationship, but it's like, no, but you were miserable.
able to talk about things openly without people having to start throwing stones in my defense in any different direction. That's not what this community's ever been about. There was a lot of stuff like that where being in a relationship that was bad for me mentally, being in a position that I was in career wise that was kind of bad for me mentally, sort of forcing my way through things without thinking. That was the first time where I ever had to like wrestle with who I was and what was happening with me, and people's sort of opinions and ideas around me changed, and it was quite hard for me to figure that out. I'm such a people pleaser person that when
Yeah, I know that he's a people pleaser, and like these people, especially those, I will warn these people that these people that are people pleasers, when you end up with a toxic person as a people pleaser, that is like the worst combination you could ever be in, because you want, like, you're thinking it's you that's the problem, but like, and you're trying your best to solve this situation and make it like work for both of you, but it, like, realistically, you cannot fix the problem because the problem is them, it's not you. But you still, as a people pleaser, attempt to fix the situation, and that is so dangerous.
any sort of dissent comes my way, I have like younger child, neglectful parent, rejection sensitivity. My barriers go up. I start making jokes. I try and figure out why people don't like me. And I have a really hard, or at least I used to have a much harder time with people not liking me. And in 2017, a lot of that came to a head where at the end of the year during Christmas, I was alone purposefully. Like, I could have been around more people if I wanted to be, but I wanted to figure out, like, okay, end of the year, I want to know who I am and what I'm doing, and I want to be by myself, and I just want to think and figure things out. I remember, especially over the Christmas period, that's usually the time when people are together more, and I wanted to see if I could weather that.
Yeah, but again, people are together, but is that a good thing? Like, sometimes I would argue that it's not a good thing. Sometimes I would argue that, like, yeah, you're together at a table, you're eating duck or whatever, like eating Christmas dinner, but like during Christmas time, a lot of people are evicted from their fucking houses. Like, deaths happen in the family, and like, you're always thinking about that, like during Christmas time and these things, and like it's like, uh, and or like really stressful social interactions where you're like many people in a room, and you just, as like an ADHD person, like an introvert, I really struggle with that. I really struggle sitting in that situation where, like, I have to be social. I'm being forced to be social, basically. And it's like I'm sitting in a situation where I normally don't want to be in, but I have to go through it because it's like, ah, yes, it's family, and it's like, fuck, man, like it's just hard. It's just hard. Like, you have to do it, and part of me is like, oh, you got to take that fight. You got to take that fight to that social demon that you have. It's like, because what is normalcy? What is what like you're supposed to be a sociable guy, right? You're supposed to be good at small talk. You're supposed to talk to people and say the things they want to hear. And it's like all of these things are just like mind goblins. Like it's all like really fucked because you are who you are, right? You're not gonna change who you are. You could try, but it's just really difficult. And I see what he's saying. Like he's purposely like reducing his interface with other people because he's like trying to work some shit out and like, but you can't even like realistically in the world you can't even do that. You can't even do that around Christmas.
alone because I realized that I never really tried to be by myself more and kind of like treat myself as a friend. I had never done that before and like sit by
No, most people are their own worst enemy. Like I'm not even sure I understand the concept of being nice to myself.
yourself and your own thoughts and see what they were actually saying to you instead of filling it with work and other people. That was probably the roughest time ever because I was trying to fill my time with games and I was playing a lot of Persona 5, which great game by the way. I was playing that at one point and I just paused and I was kind of like,
See, like he mentions Persona 5 because his brain is like, oh, I was playing a game and I enjoyed that game. It's kind of like, but it's escapism. It's like, and games are great. I love games, but like a lot of it is escapism. It's like trying to just put your mind on pause, like you're putting it on pause, right? But the topics are still there. The game is just kind of pausing that emotion for a slight bit, and you can immerse yourself into it, and you can imagine you're that guy, or you can just like take all these like thoughts that you have in your head that's like colliding against yourself, and be like, okay, yeah, they don't really matter right now. So it's kind of like an escapism thing. It always was, and escapism isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just I can see why a lot of people feel like it's a bad thing.
sitting there and I bawled my eyes out. I didn't know if people even cared about me. I started thinking about suicide for the first time in my life. I
Yeah.
mean, not the first time, but this was the first time that I legitimately thought about it as a thing.
And this suicide or thoughts about suicide in depression in males is strongly on the rise and has always been great. It has never been a small thing. If you look at suicides, a lot of them are males. Like it's just the way things are. It's the way the world is. It's like the raise that people are getting, like the financial side of things, like the pay that people get, like it's it's just their jobs, it's like who they're dating, it's their love life, it's their marriage, it's their wife, all these kind of things. Like it's a lot of things all balled up into one, and then like the end result is like massive depression, which could lead to suicidal thoughts and or even suicide. And if you feel that way, you need to talk to someone about that. You shouldn't go around with that by yourself. You need to talk to a professional or a friend about it, and they can lead you to a professional, because it's like staying in that situation is really bad. It's super 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 bad, and you need to work on what's really like what these feelings, these emotions that's causing this. Like and I feel like I'm in a state of chronic depression, so like even for me this is like, oh shit, man. Yeah, I know I need to deal with some things like that. I need to deal with the emotions behind it. But I'm so stubborn about these things, and I feel like men in general, we have a huge problem in this. Like this is such a huge unopened can of worms, because men do not want to seek, like a lot of men do not want to seek shrink help, psychological treatment or like therapy, and like talking to people about it. We just want to bury it deep inside and just go like, no, I'm tough. I can deal with this shit. I'm supposed to be the strong silent type, so I'm gonna keep being the strong silent type. And shit like this hurts. It hurts bad.
For me, like I thought about the act of doing it and everything, and I caught myself in that moment and realized that that's like the first time that that's ever happened. I realized that something's wrong, that I didn't really entertain that for that long, but it was the first time in my life where I was like, would people even miss me if I was gone?
This whole like his whole train of thought, would people even miss me if I was gone, kind of thing, is so crazy because like we're so connected, and if you sat down and thought about it for about like for 4 minutes, you'd realize that like you have unless you lost your entire family, unless you have no brothers, sisters, or like even nephews or anything like that, you would realize that like a lot of people would actually care. A lot of people would show up, not necessarily to your funeral, but like a lot of people really care about the fact that you're still here. Like, and if nobody cares in your life, I care, man. I care about that. Like, I feel like people in general, they like, I understand that like suicide is on a lot of people's mind, and it's just like they feel like it's an easy way out, but it couldn't be further from the truth. It's like one of the hardest things to do. Like they always say like, oh, he took the easy way out, but it's like, no, that's actually the hardest fucking thing that you could ever do, because it requires that you're able to take your own life, and that's difficult. You see so many people like actually taking their lives successfully, and a lot of times it's men, but like I'll say like women, is they also try, but they sometimes they try in like such a shitty way that like they know that they're gonna be like, oh, they're gonna find me in time or whatever. Like I want to take my life, but I don't want to really die. It's like, it's more like a cry for help. Mm. Well, there is some. I'm not gonna say it's an entire male issue here. It's not, because there are women out there that are dealing with really, really hard feelings that they can't like process, and then they end up in this like depression, suicide state. But like I think that, I don't know, in general, like women have like a bigger net of just they have a bigger net of support than men do. Like a lot of men are become really isolated, and they're lonely even in like their own relationships, or like they become really isolated. So
Um, and that sort of set off alarm bells in my head that that wasn't normal for me. I'd never really thought that as seriously as that before. So that was where the sort of PMA stuff was born from in all of 2018, because that was going to be my mantra, to kind of treat myself better, not sweat smaller things, and try and be a bit more positive towards myself. But I wanted to have sort of a mantra for myself to kind of like help me get through the day and be a bit more optimistic about things, because it's easy to sort of dwell in that negative space and then not know what.
it's not just easy to dwell in that negative space. It's that like you are in that negative space. Like it's just your default setting, and it's like, and it's not, there's no, I don't know if I want to say there's like a sort of safety in feeling that way, like you're cuddling yourself. It's like, no, but still, there definitely is this area where you just get stuck in this mindset. Like it's all in your head. Like you're creating all of these things in your head. So like you can create the notion that everybody hates you. You can create that nobody likes you. All of those mental like thoughts that you can create about yourself. These um, let's call them um like constructs of your mind, and they're like negative islands, right? And you just make so many of them, they compile into one big, just really fucking hard to deal with, like mirror that you put on yourself. And then that's depression, like it's sort of like a depression, or like at least it can lead to depression. But it's like a massive just negative construct you made in your own head. So in some way you could say that like depression is really like uh, it's really like a really massive negative emotion that you create within yourself. It's like it's just your brain either like doing one or the other. And sometimes they say like, oh yeah, your brain is wired to love yourself, but like in my case it's like it kind of just looks at the world and creates these notions about what I don't like about myself. And like, it could be bodily things, it could be like mind things, it could be like regrets and all these things, it could be a lot of things. and they pile on top of each other.
What to do with it, and I definitely got to like my rock bottom. After that, I really made a concerted effort to kind of like figure myself out and to work on myself and to try and go easier on myself. Didn't work. It wasn't until probably last year or this year that I feel like I finally started cutting myself some slack. I've got a much better, healthier relationship with my channel and my work and just my
Good for
personal
you.
life. And I've started to value different things a bit more, but it's still a struggle all the time. I mean,
Yes.
I live here in Brighton and we have some people that we can hang out with, like PJ and Sophie are always around as good friends. But I used to have so many more friends who lived in Brighton and now they all kind of moved away, which again is fine. They're allowed to do that. But I realized how lonely I started to get and
Yeah, you become isolated again, like that like person to person interaction. That's kind of really good. I virtual interaction is good too, but I think person to person is hard to replace with the virtual world, and it is easier for, I feel like, an introverted person to me to seek this and not seek the other thing, because it's really difficult to build real relationships, and how much time do you want to devote to this, and how many like hours, and like would you want to go to their place, and you have to get a car or a train or a bike or a scooter or whatever, and like when I was younger, that was the easiest fucking thing, but like because I lived like near my friends, like things like that, but like as you grow older, you become more and more like distant from other people, like old friends kind of vanish, school friends kind of vanish. You will never, like, unless you really keep in contact with all these people, and like, are you good at keeping contact with people, are you bad at it, it just end up like self isolating, and then you really stuck, and you're like, you can count on like two hands how many friends you have, and it's like, I don't know if having a lot of friends is necessarily the goal in life, but like having at least some close friends that you can still seek out and like hang out with, and like talk to shit about, like shoot the shit about really important topics.
I watched a video one time talking about like male loneliness in your 30s. And apparently that's a big thing for a lot of men when they hit 30 to kind of like reevaluate their lives. And for me, it definitely was.
I don't think it's 30s. I think it's literally from adulthood and then till like till you like to your old age. Even in your old age, you can talk about old retired loneliness. Kind of what that means. It's like, or like people that are in their 60s to 70s to 80s.
A case of figuring out where I fit in things. Some friendships that I had weren't what I thought they were. They weren't as good as I thought they were. And I felt sort of discarded and devalued as a person. And I'm also someone who will put the blame entirely on myself for that in those moments. And then
Yeah, see, again, this, like, he talks about blame that's directed at him from himself, right? So if you could turn those like negative emotions off, you would be happier overall, right? But it's not that simple.
just be like, well, clearly there's something wrong with me because more people don't want to hang out with me, or trying to like keep friendships that are online only is very difficult for me because I just don't like doing that. I need that face to face personal connection. I think going through COVID, there was a lot of people who were going through the same situation where they were all locked inside and we couldn't go anywhere. And I felt like, oh, we're all sort of going through the same thing. And it made
Yes, to COVID for me felt like the world got to understand what it means to be an introvert for like a brief moment, which is funny because I feel like they never had that perspective. But then you see how a lot of people were really struggling with COVID, and I felt really bad for the people that are like extroverted, because they don't understand, like, they don't know what it means to be like here, just, you know, at home, and always at home, because like you're not really an extroverted person. So like for them to face that was really tough. And for the people like me that are like introverted, it's like, hey, welcome to my life, that's how I live my life, how do you enjoy the stay? And it's like you see these people just absolutely folding under like, you know, being in the introverted space, they're not built for it, you know. Controversially, like, um I'm also not built to be an extroverted person. So like, if you put me in a situation where I have to be massively extroverted like every day, it's hard, and I face that a lot, you know.
It a bit easier. But after that, when the world started opening up again and everyone was hanging out with each other again, I kind of like sat around and I'm like, I don't have that many like close friendships that I can kind of like lean on to talk to people. And that kind of scared me because then I like lean more into YouTube and you guys as an audience. And that's also not that healthy for me to do. And I still kind of struggle with it. I get pretty lonely like very often. And I've started to like notice some of the patterns in like the relationships I have with other men, and the kind of like I'm kind of like still seeking out big brothers because I feel like my brothers weren't really there for me as much as I wanted when I was younger. Or like I'm a person who really likes connecting with other people, but I don't have much.
Hey man, hit me up in the DMs, dude. Like I said, it's on another topic too. Like, I really like Jacksepticeye's like hair color and stuff. Like, I don't feel like it's a detraction from him. Like, you know, it's like I'm graying too, man. Like, it is what it is, and I think it's a lot of people with mental struggles. They gray early, maybe, but it's because of the stress. It's like, it's just, it is what it is. But like, trying to cover it up, it's like, whatever, man. Like, who gives a fuck? If people don't like who you look as a person, it's their problem. It's like, it's not you. It's never on you. So I think like the gray look on, it looks good. It's probably gonna continue to look good on him. Like, he's a handsome guy. Like, you shouldn't feel bad about that. Like, same thing with people that are balding or whatever. It is what it is, man. That's just how you look. Like, if people have a problem with that, they are the ones with the problem.
Opportunity to do that in the position that I'm in, like here where I live now. And it takes quite a considerable amount of effort to make it happen, which is also energy that I don't have most of the time, because if you're depressed and you have ADHD, your brain is not really working the way you want it to. I'm also getting
Yeah, yeah, it's not working at all. It's working at overtime, like, but it's not working like a normal brain. That is for sure.
a test for autism next week because I'm pretty sure I'm also autistic, which makes it harder for me to kind of like retain friendships because
It's definitely a struggle with ADHD and or autism, like, to be on the proactive like friendship seeking thing. Is like, uh I think that it's just really difficult. It is like, I feel that these sorts of like really big missions we have in life. It's like trying to figure out how to deal with the problems that's put in our way. I love solving puzzles and problems, but and then therefore video games was like a natural, like, just interest for me. But also, like, it's not just in the video games, but you're dealing with like real life fucking quests, like, oh shit, dude, uh try to survive next week because you gotta fucking go to work. It's like, how do you deal with the angry, like, customer, or like, these are like mini quests in the RPG that we call life, dude. It's like, fuck, dude. It's just this. It is seriously, art imitates life and life imitates art. Like, sometimes life is even stranger than, like, sometimes life can be stranger than art. That's the weird part. And like, you consider how weird art is, and then you look at the world and say, like, but like, actually, the fucking real world is stranger.
it could be ADHD as well, but I also feel like I'm a very like out of sight, out of mind, and then it's difficult to describe. But it's a lot of the stuff that I'm doing work on myself for. But in the last couple of years, I've opened up some wounds that I didn't know were there, and I've picked at some scabs emotionally to try and like get to the depths of why I feel certain things and why I am the way I am.
You are human. It's a simple, short answer: is you are a human being with emotions, and you're told you don't have them, but like, you do have them as a man. and you do have them as a woman, but a woman is more typically more skilled at navigating emotions because they also have sort of more of them, but they also have a better uh they they're they're taught to like they are taught to embrace emotions, and like they are taught to how to deal with them, and they have a good social network typically, or a support network typically, where they can take care of these emotions, and men do typically not. We don't, well, I'm a bit of an old guard, but like basically the old guard, the way we deal with emotions is we don't. Like we just don't. We hit them. We hide the emotions. We bury them inside, and it's like repression of emotions. It's more like it's not letting them, and like, and you know the fact that we're taught sort of like to feel only the anger, kind of like delve into the anger emotion, so we filter everything to anger, or like, and then you can't show anger because if it like um in public, like displays of anger is not welcome at all. Like, and they are in fact policed heavily, and if a man shows any of those like feelings in public, it is demonized and like fucking just shut down. Like cops are sent to the location. You can't show those emotions because then all of a sudden you are a physical threat to the world. So like therefore we need to lock those emotions down. We need to like beat people. We need to like, yeah, it's you send the cops, they shut the shit down, and then now because you were angry you're in jail or something like that, right? It's like, it's just, we don't there's not a lot of other emotions you can filter it through, as the people that was raised that way, to not like, oh, the kids that were told to, you're a big boy, don't cry, and then you have the girls on the other side of the wall and she's like crying her heart out to her mother, and like her mother's like, oh yeah, it's okay to cry, and the boys in the other room is like, no, stop crying, kid, like, hey, it's okay, whatever, you can't cry, you're a big boy, right? It's like you understand the duality of this, how fucked it is that we're treating people differently here.
And it's been quite uncomfortable to do that. And sometimes I'll leave therapy and I'll just be so drained that I won't be able to do anything for the rest of the day. I left therapy
Yeah, introspection is hard, it's difficult.
2 weeks ago, and I was talking about a particularly difficult subject, which again is also difficult for me because sometimes I can't talk about the things publicly because it involves other people that will start turning into something that I don't want it to. And it's very difficult for me to not be able to like be honest and not be truthful and not kind of like speak my mind when I'm kind of like, I have to put the safety on or I have to be like dumbed
Sorry, I'm drinking some water.
down or muted a bit. I have a difficult time with that. It's also something I'm trying to like learn to deal with. But when I left therapy like 2 weeks ago, I left and I was like, I think that was a good session. We talked about a lot of good stuff, and I just left and met up with Evelyn afterwards, and I just bawled my eyes out, and it was just like such a release that I like said stuff that I didn't really say out loud before. It just felt really healthy to do that. Like you have to go through
Yeah,
a lot of the difficult stuff to kind of come out the other side a bit better.
you gotta try and process the emotions that are still stuck in your body.
And I'm not saying any of this stuff to sort of paint myself in a victim light, or I'm not trying to like put pity on myself or anything. I think anybody that's watched me for any length of time knows that I don't view myself that way or try not to. I'm talking about this because I'm trying to be as vulnerable as I can be. Show myself warts, blisters, and all. I still have a hard time.
He's so he hides this like with emotions here, with humor, but really you can tell it's a struggle. It's hard, man. It's hard to talk about these things.
With myself mentally 24/7. My brain is always working, trying to figure out what other people are thinking, over analyzing other people, over analyzing myself.
Well, guess what? I'm the same way. Like, actually, my Myers-Briggs profile is INTPA, which the A stands for like analytical. It's one of those things where a lot of men typically, well, it depends on what type of person you are, but a lot of men, I can't generalize too much. I try to stop myself from doing that because I don't know. I think there's this fucking dysfunction in people where, and I'm talking about me specifically, where like I feel like I'm like the prototype of what other people feel like, right? And that's not the case at all. It's like you're generalizing, right? Fucking idiot, you're generalizing. But like basically, my mind goes like, well, this is natural for me, so this should be natural for other men, and it's not always. Like there are men out there that are naturally good at like dealing with emotions, and like they're like there are men out there that are not analytical at all. Like they're more like feeling or sensing, and I'm like hyper analytical, right? So it's like logically and analytical. That's kind of like what it weighs heavily on my mind. Whereas like for other men, that might not be the case, you know? So you can't really assume every time that the situation is the same. And especially not with mental issues like ADHD or autism. Like we process things differently. We process loss, love, emotions differently.
Picking up everything in my environment all around me all the time. Again, another reason why I'm getting checked for autism. My brain is just so busy all the time that most of the time I have a hard time just getting through the day.
Yeah,
As healthy as I'm trying to be and
getting through the day is hard.
as much better as I am now compared to what I was a few years ago, it's still a struggle. But I've just gotten better at now kind of like knowing my boundaries and my limits where I can sort of pump the brake.
And some people find that effortless. You know, they can just do whatever. Every day is a dance on roses. This positivity, and I wonder if some of that is like a shield, and it's just they're masking their real emotions. But like to be honest, it's like for somebody like me going through right now, I'm like working like 5 hours a day, and a lot of people are working like way longer jobs, but you also have to consider the fact that I have a fucking like thing that is causing that to be so mega uber stressful. So that like after the day I'm just burnt. I'm literally burnt after 5 hours. Like my head is fucking on fire.
Take some time for myself and just level out instead of overloading myself. And I'm someone who's in a very fortunate position that I can do that. I can wake up someday and be like, I don't want to work today.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that. It's very, very difficult
Yeah, exactly this. Like not everybody has that privilege.
to be someone who has mental health problems and you have to go to a 9 to 5 all the time. I can't imagine how difficult that is for some people. As someone who's never really had a 9 to 5 job, I got very lucky with YouTube early on and it worked.
So I've had both. Like I both had the 9 to 5, and now I kind of have looked at myself and dealt with specialists and talked to the state and the government and all that kind of stuff, and like I ended up in this situation I'm in now. Like I have less hours, but it's still stressful. So like ideally I just would rather not work at all, like because it's just so stressful, right? But there's uh are you better off not working as a person with a mental like problem? I don't know if either's better for you. Like you could say like, oh, you just gotta walk it off, kid, but it's like no, that's like it's not how it works, man. It's not just a little scrape on the knee, it's like a constant thing.
Out and I worked hard at it, but let's face it, I've never really worked a 9 to 5 job like most people have, so it's difficult. And a lot of people just don't want to hear it. There's probably a ton of people who've watched this video now who are kind of like rolling their eyes or turned it off or don't want to hear about it. It's a difficult thing because that permeates everybody. Everybody has mental health struggles, just some people are better at hiding.
The thing is, not everybody does, but they definitely have struggles, like problems in their lives. I'm not saying like, for a fact that like some people deal with a lot of stuff, right? But like not every person you see on the street. This really fucked with me a lot. Like just thinking about how like some people just walk through lives and they're like, uh, they just don't have any of those problems that I deal with. It's like, oh my god, are you serious? These people exist. This existence is a thing you could have. It's like, and I know for a fact that I could never become a person like that in a million years. And it's like, But there are people that just walk out there efforts like without effort. They just walk through life and they're like, yeah, I've never had to deal with that. I just fucking went to work. I love my work. I love my life. I love my kids. I love my everything. I love myself. It's like, what the fuck, man? These people exist. You're like a unicorn, but like not a bad unicorn, but like like a unicorn that's just shiny and just it's in the cartoons. Mm. Like for me, it's like I feel like a fucking gremlin, right? It's like it's different. It's so weird.
them. Some people don't want to talk about them. Some people think they don't have them and they just push through life. But I feel like in this day and age, with everything
Definitely somebody's hiding those emotions for sure. Some people are hiding it.
that's going on, the amount of war that's happening in the world, with the amount of election turmoil that's been happening, it feels very difficult to kind of like get through your day without being anxious these days.
Yeah.
At least for me. I have
And anxiousness is like a default state for most people, like Jack and me. It's like this default state, being stressed.
a hard time doing it. And I'm trying my best to not have that be a thing, but it's just so difficult. I also wanted to say this kind of stuff to relate to other people a bit more. And maybe you can't relate to some of the things I'm talking about because it's very specific to like being a YouTuber. Maybe there are some people who feel what I'm saying, but just to
No.
anybody out there,
No, it's very relatable to anybody that has struggles. We're talking about the mental kind of struggles, not necessarily life struggles, but mentally, like you're looking at yourself and like you're looking at the problems that you deal with. Like it's all mental, but it's like it's based on like this, descriptors such as ADHD or like autism, and these things just exist in people. And I understand that there are people out there that walk around with a normal brain, like neural, um, just they don't have any like neurodiversity in that sense, or like they don't have the neurodivergency or whatever you should say. But like they're just normal people walking around just doing their lives, and then you look at yourself and you're like, fuck, dude, I wish I had that.
who is going through mental health difficulties. And what did it say? In like an eighth of the world has it, and the way the world is
Think about that, 1/8. That means that there's like what? So there's like okay, so yeah, it's about a billion people, right? A billion people is walking around feeling like this or is dealing with things like this. But then there's 6 billion people, just the 6 or 7 billion people just walking around just having a normal day, and they don't have this problem.
designed, and the way the internet is designed, and the way algorithms are designed, and social media and everything, it's just really hard to not find yourself wading into negativity without realizing.
Oh, a lot of media is negative. It's all negative, mostly. And also you can scale it onto another thing. If you put like the intelligence quotient like scale onto this, you'll find that like usually typically the people in the lower scale of IQ will be more happy, and the people in the top scale of the IQ scale, like the shall we say like the top 20%, these people can be massively unhappy, like due to just the fact that they don't fit in. And like I'm one of those people that just do not like, I'm in the top 20%, and it just doesn't, like, you don't fit in.
You're in it. So I just wanted to do this video to kind of like air it all out, say it's okay, it's fine. You're allowed to go through mental health struggles. It's okay to take breaks and time for yourself. It's not selfish. You would be shocked to know how many people are going through the exact same situation as you. There's stuff that I've never
Yeah.
really talked about publicly. And
Well, he just said it just now. It was a billion people that might be dealing with these struggles, and then you can scale it down to like 200 million people with high IQ. Maybe, I don't know.
guess it's a good time to kind of like mention some things like being in a household that had alcoholism rampant in it. The talk of suicide, the act of suicide, has been around in my family and my town and people I've known. Not only that, but having people in my family point guns at each other and say
Jeez.
that they're going to kill someone, and then
That's real messed up. That is something that's gonna mark you for life.
Take their own life is something that I thought was so specific to me, and talking about it at therapy and kind of like opening up a bit more about these kinds of things, you realize that no, it may be a bit more unique, but other people have gone through very, very similar things.
Other people have gone through worse. Some people have gone to much easier situations, but that doesn't mean that it invalidates like the way you feel, whether you had an easier time or a harder time. You are still in the same situation. You're still like feeling these emotions, and you're getting into like these really bad fucking places in your mind where you're like considering suicide and like, depression, suicide, like hand in hand, like there.
In their lives. And it feels good, at least to me, knowing that you're not alone, that you're not broken, that there's something not inherently completely wrong with you that other people will never understand, because they will. There's tons and tons and tons of people, unfortunately, who are going through other stuff as well, but who can understand what you're going through. And it's
Well, can understand what you're going through, but maybe not have the same experience. But they're like, a billion people, but they're spread all over the world. I mean, like, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of people in your country that has the same experience or it is close to you so you can interact with them, but like definitely there are people out there that are struggling, and a lot of men are struggling currently due to a lot of things such as economy and like housing market, food prices, gas prices, like living quarters, housing, like buying houses, basically paying alimony, and like all of these things, like where it really makes their life such a fucking miserable time.
especially organizations like Samaritans and Crisis Text Line, they're also there for you if you need help, if you feel like there's
Seek these if you even like feel like you need these. Like if you're like maybe I should, then you definitely should. Like it's even if you feel just maybe like nothing. These lines exist, and nothing will hurt you or them if you try to contact them. Like you should contact them if you are feeling even remotely like you are fucking struggling. You're like in the pool and you can't reach the edge. Reach out for the people at the edge, man. These are the people.
no one to turn to. They have qualified people who can talk you through situations, and you may think, oh, I don't want to bother them. Oh, what I'm going through is not as bad as somebody else. Just please do it. If you feel like you need someone to talk to, there is someone out there that can listen, and that's why we're doing it. It feels like
Exactly.
mental health is sort of the backbone of society and community, and it feels like it's being pulled at the seams right now. It feels like the threads are being undone. I'm trying to do something that reinforces the fact that there is positivity still out there, that we can battle through it, that we can wade through the problems of the world. And I've always said it, despite
We should certainly always attempt to find a solution for the problem. If it's there and you recognize that it's there, like, we should try to fight these situations, fight these like tyrannical wars and like war zones and war in general. Like, we need to solve these problems for humanity and we need to move on.
how difficult it may seem, that positivity and progress will always happen under the surface anyway. And I still hold that true. I still think that that's something that's been really important to me and something that kind of like helps me get through the day. So that's kind of it. I don't really know what this video is, but I just wanted to sit down and talk and just kind of like get
It's just you being real, man. And I think that's fucking good in this, like, this is what YouTube used to be. Like it can be sometimes. It's like it's you, unfiltered, just to like no smoke and mirrors, just the real you. And it's good to see this.
thoughts out, but also to talk about Thankmas. December 6th, it'll be in person. We'll have two shows at the Orpheum Theatre in LA on December 6th. There's an early show and a later show. They'll be slightly different from each other, like they were last year. It will also be streamed, of course, but we have seats to sell, and I would love to see so many people at the show in person, because I'm trying to reinforce that idea of community and coming together and being in the same place as one another, and like seeing each other face to face and not just dealing with each other on the internet all the time, I think is a
Yeah.
really big thing for this current climate that we're in. And I care very, very deeply about mental health, and I always have. I want to reinforce that. I want to.
Of course you do. It makes perfect sense. Like you're dealing with it, and it's like a personal case for you. You know, like a personal like vendetta, and it's and we all should seek these like opportunities, like to be more social, if we can. It's just hard for some people.
Raise awareness for it. I want to try and raise as much money as we can for it, to train more counselors for both of these organizations, and just try and make the world just that tiny bit better. We've raised $26 million, and I'm hoping that we can push it over 30 for Thankmas this year. And I think that that goal is very achievable, and I can't wait to see what we're able to do.
That's fucking amazing, man.
As a community together, but not only ours, but everybody's. You can also sign up to do Thankmas yourself, any of your communities. If you go to thankmas.tiltify.com, it'll be in the description. You can sign up and make a page for yourself. Other YouTubers can do it if you're watching this. Other streamers can do it. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter how much you want to raise. It's all going towards the same cause. So please go out, spread the word. Let people know that Thankmas is not only happening, that you can watch it and raise money for it,
There
that
it
you
is.
can join in and raise money for it if you want to with your own communities. You can come and see the show live if you want to with your friends or on your own. There will be tons of people that you can make friends with. Just please spread the word that it's happening. I want more people to know about that it's going on. And I feel like whenever these things are coming up, I don't talk about it enough, and then it happens and I'm like, here.
Yeah, I will certainly spread the word. I don't know how many it's gonna reach, but you know, there it is.
Here's me trying my best. I want people to sort of break down their walls a bit more and be more open and vulnerable with each other as much as you're comfortable. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, see you later. Yeah, so that was me just reacting to this, and like, oh, there's so many things I could say about this, like other than what it's already been said, but these initiatives are good. I think Jacksepticeye is like one of those unique people to understand these problems, because he's dealt with them, and I think like supporting things like that, you know, is good. But really, what I want to urge just people to do in their close like communities is like seek out the people that are like sinking, and give them a little bit of a life raft, man. Give them a hand, you know. Give them a hug, you know. Go seek them out. Just say like, hey man, I'm there. I'm gonna be there for you. Like if you want to talk, you can call me, you know, send me a fucking email or whatever, Discord me. Like late night, who cares? Who gives a shit? Just send me the message, and I'll, you know, I'll talk to you. And I feel like I would do the same, but like it's hard to do that to thousands of people. But it is easier to do that to somebody, you know, that's struggling near you, that you realize is not having the best time of their lives, you know. It's like it doesn't really matter if you become friends or not, but you can like seek them out and just be like, hey man, what you dealing with? You wanna go have a Coke and a smile, man? You know? Mm. We've been going here for close to an hour, and I want to say like, if you're watching this, seek help. If you're like in a situation like this, if you're struggling, you can't swim, seek these people out. And if you want to watch more of my content, there's gaming stuff, like just, you know, to turn off your brain and watch something. You know, I've been StealthMoustache. Remember to hit the sub and like button, because I need it. Shit, dude. I need more subs and more joiners, you know. But if you like what you're seeing, but don't feel pressures to do it, but you can always talk to me. I'll be around YouTube, you know, and deal with these things. Don't just let them sit, you know. Don't let it turn into this like extreme thing where you're in deep depression, or like where you are considering suicidal things. It's like, no, deal with this, you know. And I would like to thank Jack for his video, which is very, you know, naked. You know, it's like going deep into the core. and like I deal with similar problems, you know, frequently, have been for years. It's you know, in my case it's mostly ADHD, but I feel like there's other things, you know. But here it is. Here's the video. I'm making this just because, yeah, you know, I feel like I need to post something and I'm still editing other stuff. So here it is, and I'll see you next time.